This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We are not licensed therapists, and this podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or any other qualified professional. Be sure to always seek the advice of a trusted professional with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or any other physical, mental, or emotional symptoms you may be experiencing. Got it? Good. Then let's jump right in.
Welcome. I'm Harmony Slater, your host of the Finding Harmony podcast. Over the past 20 years, I've taught thousands of yoga teachers and students to explore the intersection between ancient wisdom and modern everyday life, using mind-body practices to heal, awaken, and manifest their dreams from the inside out. This podcast is a sanctuary for those feeling overwhelmed by life's challenges. Are you ready to jump in and discover how these challenges aren't actually in the way, but are the way to finding harmony? Let's invite the magic back in. Hello, welcome to the Finding Harmony podcast. We have such a wonderful, surprising episode for you today. We are actually sitting down with Brandy Searcy, who is a research scientist with a long history in working with skincare companies and working with chemical compounds. And she started her own organic skincare line called Rain Organica. And we thought we were going to talk to her about Rain Organica and how it was based on the principles of Ayurveda. But instead, we dove into a completely different subject that's very personal to me. So you might remember or know that I was diagnosed last year with Hashimoto's, which is hypothyroidism. It's an autoimmune disorder. And it was a very challenging period. Actually, several years leading up to it have been very challenging, not just because of COVID and all of the changes that happened with that. But really, it was a very difficult time because doctors weren't able to correctly diagnose what was going on for me. And so I was experiencing all kinds of really interesting symptoms, which I thought were related to perimenopause. But as it turns out, many of these symptoms can look the same. So things like having hot flashes, sleepless nights, irregular menstrual cycles, feeling excessively tired, a lack of enthusiasm, gaining weight. There's so many related symptoms when it comes to your thyroid, because your thyroid is the gland that controls the hormonal balance in your body. And so many doctors don't actually test for thyroid functioning. It can also lead to having chronic UTI infections, like urinary tract infections as well, which is also a symptom that I was struggling with, that just doctors couldn't tell me what was going on. And so I had to really go on a deep dive and start working with a functional medicine doctor before I was able to really get information about how best to move forward. So Brandy works with women who are living life limited by these symptoms like the ones I've just described. They know that these symptoms are real. They know they don't feel right in their body or in their energy, but they're not being treated with a sense of respect, I guess, or they're being dismissed by Western medical doctors. And that can be really, really frustrating. And often they aren't getting the results they need, even after being diagnosed. Even working with naturopath or functional medicine practitioners, many still struggle with these symptoms or want to try to fix things on their own or work with symptoms in a more natural way to bring the autoimmune disorder into remission, but aren't sure how to proceed. So Brandy offers a group coaching program called Better Than Fine, and we'll have links for you in the show notes. She also does one-on-one consultations and coaching as well. And we will also throw that link in the show note. One really interesting fact that she brought up was that often having thyroid problems can lead to infertility. And so if you've been struggling to become pregnant, that might be an avenue that you haven't looked into or that your doctor hasn't checked. It can also lead to really strange symptoms like rashes and migraines and just a general inflammation all over the body. And so obviously autoimmune disorders are triggered by many different things. And I personally was very frustrated by going to the doctors and having them tell me it was just stress and I should do yoga, which always seemed like a big irony. So we're going to talk to Brandy today about if you have these undiagnosed symptoms or a cluster of symptoms that you know aren't normal, but no one can seem to tell you what's going on, how you can advocate for yourself, and some of the things that you can also look into for yourself and the support you can start to find and receive on your own and with the help of someone else. So I hope that you love this episode. It's really, really fascinating and interesting to dive into the science behind hormone functioning and how it affects every aspect of our health, physically, emotionally, mentally, and our overall sense of well-being. Hi, welcome to the Finding Harmony podcast. I'm your host, Harmony, and I'm here with Russell Caves.
Now, what time of day do they listen to this show?
People listen to this show at all times of the day.
We don't have a live recording?
No, not right now.
Is it good morning or is it good afternoon?
It's just good time.
But we release it like
time.
early Tuesday, right?
Yeah, Tuesday morning.
Tuesday. Good morning then.
Good morning.
Good
Why
morning.
not?
It's afternoon here. Oh.
Today we have a very special guest, Brandy Searcy. How are you, Brandy?
I'm good. What about yourself, Harmony?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. We all have our dogs in the podcast today. So if you're just listening, you don't get the benefit of seeing all the little dogs popping up. But you can watch on YouTube and see all the dog heads popping up.
So just before we got on, we were talking about where in Georgia our guest is from. And I spent a lot of time in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and Mobile, where my grandparents are, and then where they're dead now. But you said south of Macon, like east of Albany?
Yep, east of Albany.
Tifton. It's right on the
did you find it?
75, right in the middle there, right in the hex. You got a hex on Tifton. North of Valdosta. Is that how you say it?
That's how you say it. And I love that you said the 82 and the 75, because that's very much how we talk in Southern California and not in Georgia.
Yeah. You also spent a lot of time in California, Northern California.
Yeah, on the 101. The 101, that's where I live.
There you go. Yeah, we go back and visit friends in Colorado, and we call it the 5 and the 15, and they're like, you guys have spent way too much time in California.
That's
yes,
so
indeed.
funny. That's where you are now, in San Diego.
Yeah, North County.
Why'd you move there, of all places?
Why would I not move here of all places?
Because you can move back east.
I mean, honestly, nothing makes my soul happier sometimes than to fly into Atlanta and see all the trees, especially in the fall. Yeah. It is so gorgeous.
Coming out of New Orleans, that was hard for me going to Atlanta. It's a rival. And I sat foot and I was like, I can't believe I'm here. And we're going to go visit those nice folks in Ashtanga Yoga Atlanta.
Yeah, we were teaching there.
They were nice people.
Yeah, it was a wonderful time.
What's his name? Todd?
Todd.
Oh, and his partner.
And Bryce.
And I said I couldn't believe I was here in Atlanta. The hatred that I have for Atlanta, and I'd never been there, didn't know anybody from there, never met there. I just didn't like the football team.
My dad is a Georgia Bulldogs fan. I went to Georgia Tech, nearly broke his heart.
Yeah, that'd do it.
I know the sports allegiance are big.
Yeah.
Man.
But so when did you, because you're a scientist, is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Pharmaceutical research scientist. So I have been in pharma since 2010. before that, I was
pharma.
Yeah.
yeah, always call it
When
that.
they're inside the industry, they always call it pharma.
Yes.
Yeah.
What kind of job did you have in pharma that you were researching? What were you working on? Can you tell us, or is it top secret?
Yeah, no, I can tell you. So I'm in formulation development. Like technically that's the field or the area. And my first job in pharma, I was the person on this really complex project where we were having to make a drug and do it in a way so that you could inject it directly into people. You couldn't, so this is geek speak, you could not terminally sterilize this. You couldn't sterile filter it during the filling process. And so the entire fill was done aseptically. And I was in charge of doing all of the steam in place piping. And actually the process itself was very in-depth because this particular one was a long-acting injectable. So it's basically where you take the drug itself and let's see, how do I describe that? It's like you blend it together with the polymer, which is the long-acting delivery vehicle, and then you make these teeny tiny microspheres in the process. So it's all of this, you're dissolving everything, putting it all together, and then passing it through and turning it back into a solid after it's blended. And you want to control the particle size, you want to control the drug distribution within this little teeny tiny sphere, so that when you inject it into a person, it's going to release in a predictable way over a predictable amount of time. So that was the project that I was working on there. And
I do love how she does the same thing that I do when a Southerner suddenly enters their field of expertise and they leave the South behind and they speak with some experience and they code switch to the audience that's in front of them that's also in pharma.
I mean, as you're from the South, so you know, there are master storytellers in the South. So I grew up around master storytellers better than myself.
That sounds complex. So that's like a drug, like maybe like a birth control drug or something that's releasing over time.
You want to get back to the drugs.
Yeah.
The one that I was working on was actually for schizophrenia.
Oh, wow. Like, that's pretty amazing. Very, very interesting disorder.
I think the problem with schizophrenia is a lot of these people already feel like something is underneath their skin. And so for me, I always had a disconnect with this particular program, even though I worked on it for 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting, isn't it? To think about.
Yeah.
I know a lot of schizophrenic patients don't like the drugs either, or the side effects.
No. Yeah. And this particular one, and maybe this is something I shouldn't say, but I'm going to say it anyway. So I had dropped some of the polymer drug solution on my shoe one time, and then I went home to see my folks. My mom's dog got it, and she ate my shoe, and then she started having all of the side effects of the drug.
No.
That's a good afternoon.
Yeah.
That's a fun evening.
Oh, no.
Oh, it was a blast. It was over Easter, so all of my cousins' kids were hunting for Easter eggs, and meanwhile, I'm sitting back researching, okay, what side effect? What is going on? What do we do for this poor dog?
Oh, you want
also, she needed to just sleep it off.
Yeah, she got better once it started to wear off. Oh, my God.
Can you give us specific things the dog was doing that she shouldn't have been doing?
She was aggro. Why would that be a side effect, right? You're giving it to schizophrenics, and that's one of the side effects.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so interesting.
I can imagine being treated for one of my overdoses on LSD and going full aggro. I can imagine it.
But okay, so you have this long career in pharma, and how did you transition from that into creating skincare products that are based in Ayurveda, which is very natural?
Oh my gosh, that is a loaded question. Where to start? All right, so we're gonna rewind.
Yeah, let's
back to my experience growing up. So I started having acne in my teens. My mom is a registered nurse. And like any good mother, she took me all over South Georgia to all of the best dermatologists. And I still had acne. What wound up happening, so this is after trying all the topical prescription drugs, trying a bunch of antibiotics, trying like the whole thing. I was finally placed on Accutane. And during that course of Accutane, I started experiencing side effects. And they weren't major side effects in the grand scheme of things, but they were enough to scare me. And it was...
What kind of side effects did you have?
Yeah.
I also had acne and went on Accutane. So I was like, oh, we're going to have all kinds of interesting conversation. Yeah.
You had acne that bad?
Yeah.
Your skin's so clear, though.
No, I follow Ayurvedic principles. But also my son has acne, so I want all your Ayurvedic secrets about reducing acne so I can pass them along to him.
Actually, my secrets about reducing acne have nothing to do with Ayurveda.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
Perfect. Tell us all.
Okay. I was getting headaches, and I was not one to really get headaches. And then the other thing, I'm just going to come right out and say it. I was pooing grain, which that's not normal.
I have done it. If you eat enough kale and you start to farm your own wheatgrass and that's all you eat for a year, you start to you actually get disappointed when your poo comes out brown. Wait a second, I must not be doing very good.
So you know it's a conversation based in Ayurveda when you start talking about feces. I once was in India and I did a panchakarma, and it was like a 10-day, you drink a lot of ghee and your skin gets saturated with ghee. And then at the end of the 10 days, you take a purgative and you have to sit in a hospital room and be near a toilet because you're just going to the bathroom all day long. And I pooped the rainbow, actually.
Oh, wow.
Like rainbow came out your ass.
It was very fascinating. It was like in stages, though. The feces kept turning all different colors.
Well, when
like
did it
each
turn into
step
pure
of the
blinding
day.
light? When did that happen?
That was at the very end.
At the very end.
When everything had been purged out.
Pure light of the Lord came through you. Man.
And I was as light as a feather.
I should go to India. That'd be good.
Okay, so we were having some negative side effects. What happens next?
So I stopped, like then and there, mid-course, I stopped. And in that moment, I vowed to do a 180, stop treating my skin like a canvas to wage war on, and start treating it like an organ to be loved. And this was back in 2004. So it's early days of the internet, definitely before cell phones, back when it was time consuming to shop, right? So you can go down to the local natural foods store, and I literally spent hours looking at ingredients lists and going, okay, this goes back on the shelf because I'm not going to use that ingredient. This goes back on the shelf because I know that one causes me to break out. And I limped along with just using some stuff that was good enough for a few years. And then I fell backwards into my first ever formulation job, not knowing that the field of formulation development even existed. And I fell backward into a job doing pesticide formulation of all things.
I'm sorry, forgive me. What do you mean by formulation?
Okay, formulation is, all right, the easiest example of this is Coca-Cola, right? The Coke is not just one ingredient. It's the syrup plus the carbonated water plus there's like other ingredients in it. And then there's stabilizers and then there's preservatives. So it's putting all of that together in a way that makes it taste good when we're talking food formulation. It's the recipe. Yeah.
So like for pesticides, it's like you need the right amount of poison and not too much to kill the plant.
I don't think Monsanto calls it poison.
That's what it is, right?
That's a whole nother story.
Just enough to kill the
Put
bugs.
Monsanto down just because of
enough to kill the bugs
Kill the
and give
bugs
the
and not
bees
kill the
colony
plant.
collapse, but not kill the plant. Yeah. But, obviously this was back in the day before I knew better, because pesticide formulation, I mean, come on. But anyways.
Someone's got to do it.
Yeah. So you started doing
it's true.
pesticide formulation to give like middle-aged men lung cancer and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was your goal.
So the company I worked for, BASF, they were a German-owned company.
Oh, wow.
And working for German-owned companies is a little bit weird. Yeah. There's lots of things you don't see.
Yeah, you just do your job and that's it. I'm sure.
Yeah, not a lot of questioning from above.
So you're in the formulation, and then what happens?
Believe it or not, skincare formulation and pesticide formulation have a lot of overlap.
I believe it, actually.
I learned all the principles about what it takes to make a good lotion from my job as formulating pesticides. All of the science behind it, this is once again getting over into the geek speak, the whole HLB, so hydrophilic lipophilic balance conversation around emulsifiers, and it's basically how you get oil and water to mix and stay mixed over time. And yeah, I learned all of the principles of formulation from that job, and I started making my own skincare on the side. And I did that started that in 2008, and I've been making my own skincare ever since. The only thing that stopped me from going all into skincare earlier was the fact that in 2010, I landed my first job in pharma. And even though I was on the injectable side of things, that company had a topical division. And I was using some of the same suppliers for my ingredients that they were using. And my husband was like, you don't want them to find out at work that you're using the same suppliers and this be a whole thing. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Okay, so I'm not going to start my own skincare business now. Fast forward to 2016, I left that job and took another job in pharma that does not have a topical division. And by then, I was really serious about being green, very clean, reformulated everything to get rid of some of the more questionable preservatives, more questionable emulsifiers. Yeah, and this is the space I've been in ever since. And then the other thing, I think the other major thing that happened in 2016 was my grandmother was diagnosed with a rare type of melanoma that's actually flesh colored, of all things. And it was like, okay, with all these ingredients, we're going to go next level crazy and dive into the research and be sure that they're legit.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then you were researching all of the ingredients to make sure they were more natural, more green, organic. Is it all organic?
Where possible, the ingredients are organic. Sometimes it's not possible to source certain ingredients wholly or as organic. And some of that even has to do with, to give you a prime example, I love meadow foam seed oil. It's nearly impossible to find meadow foam seed oil that is organic. And part of that is because it goes through this filtration process to remove some impurities. And that particular filtration process is not organic. Even though it's a natural process, it can't be called an organic process.
That makes sense.
Meadow foam, is that a kind of flower?
It is. So they grow it a lot in the Pacific Northwest. They actually crop rotate with it. So they'll grow their normal crops during the growing season, and then they'll plant this on the fallow fields.
Right. Wow.
But to put nitrogen into the soil or something like that.
Yeah. I think it is. I think it helps to fix the soil. The meadow foam, so it's often this bright red color, and apparently it's got a little bit of a more distinct odor, which is why it needs to go through this filtration process to remove whatever that odorant is. So yeah, I just, with that one in particular, there is one company that offers it organic, but it's also when only one company does it and the main ones don't, you're always like, what's going on here? Is this really meadow foam seed oil? So
it sounds like our engagement, how I went through a filtration to kind of get rid of a couple of unsightly odors and smells. I'm trying to make this whole thing relatable so I understand what's going on. Okay.
What would you use that oil for? Is it what does it do?
So it's similar in structure to jojoba oil. And jojoba is actually a wax, even though it's liquid. The thing with meadow foam seed oil is, all right, we know that there are saturated fats, monounsaturated fats, and polyunsaturated fats. So with the saturated fats, the chain length is important. So coconut oil has very short chain length saturated fats. Jojoba has pretty dang long saturated fats. Meadow foam is even longer. So it's a very stable oil. It actually stabilizes oils that have short shelf lives, like evening primrose or pumpkin seed, things that have a lot of polyunsaturated fats. And then the other thing is there are studies showing the difference just between, because you're like, why not just jojoba? Because it's not that much shorter. But there are studies where they've looked at jojoba versus meadowfoam seed, and it's remarkable how much better the skin looks on the meadowfoam treated side than the jojoba treated side.
Goodness.
Wow. That's so interesting.
Is that what you tell me about cooking oil, about how you want something that has a longer, lasts longer,
more
stable? And actually, olive oil, even though Gordon Ramsay
you can have it raw, but not.
You shouldn't cook it because it destabilizes so quick.
Yes.
Okay.
It has a low smoking temperature, so it turns into like a carcinogen.
Okay.
Is that right? You're the scientist.
Yeah, with the smoke point. All right. So there's the composition between saturated mono and polyunsaturated fats. Mm-hmm. And then there's the smoke point, which is like when those fats start to break down into something else. Because what's interesting to me is sesame oil, which actually has high polyunsaturated fats. It actually has a really high smoke point.
Yeah,
that's right.
And it's because it is so rich in the antioxidant sesamol.
Also very good for putting on your skin if you have high vata dosha.
Oh, that's right.
Exactly.
Oh my God, look at you, the transition. That's exactly right. We do that every Saturday. We cover ourselves in the sesame oil. And what other oil do we use?
Coconut oil is good for pitta dosha, high pitta dosha.
What's that seed? It's a sea seed.
Castor seed
oil.
That was interesting. I'd love to get your take on this because in the Ashtanga Yoga lineage of Pattabhi Jois and Sharat Jois.
We're just in South India. They do.
Yeah, but I think it's actually quite unique to this lineage. I haven't heard.
You think so?
Yeah, I haven't heard many other
Not
people
many of the neighbors were doing it. No. They covered themselves in oil every
in
Saturday.
Castor oil, particularly.
Head to toe.
You put it on your head.
We've done it.
And then you cover like your whole body and you leave it on for a little bit and then you wash it off.
Which is odd.
It doesn't become totally hallucinogenic.
I'm a bit more sensitive than you, I guess, but I would lose my mind. And then you wash it off and it takes a green soap nut powder.
You could also just use dish soap.
Oh, and it takes a bit to get it off. And then you get it off and then you just want to lie down and turn into...
Yeah, it makes you very tired.
It's like the indica, what do you call the marijuana? Indica is the one that makes you want to sit in the couch because it's indica. So it's just like that. You just want to lie there in a totally...
Yeah, you're supposed to also not go out or be stimulated too much.
You don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to.
What do you think about that?
So castor oil, I mean, everybody loves castor oil packs, right? For the liver, for detoxing, for the whole thing. And this is on my list of things to research because for the life of me, I have not uncovered yet why castor oil is so good for detoxing.
Yeah.
That hallucinogen, I think it is ricin. It's supposed to be removed from it.
The ricin? It's ricin?
I'm pretty sure it's ricin.
I'm bathing myself in ricin?
You got me wondering.
Good Lord. You're telling me ricin comes from castor oil. That's what you tell me right now. Castor.
Yeah, castor bean. The most infamous part of the castor bean is the highly toxic material. I think it's ricin.
Pardon my language, and I'm going to leave it at that.
What, it would really make you hallucinate a little bit if your skin's absorbed
kill you too. It's a poison.
I don't know. I've got to double check this.
Man.
I can't just leave this hanging and be like, I am so wrong on this.
I feel like you're right.
You can't Google it or the feds will pick you up on the internet.
But what's ricin? What makes it so...
It's a poison, so it'll kill you. That's what they send it to politicians all the time to kill them.
I thought that was like anthrax.
They don't send anthrax to a politician.
Do we find out?
Let's see.
Ricin is part of the waste mash produced when castor oil is made, not in India, evidently. Ricin has been used experimentally in medicine to kill cancer cells.
Oh.
The castor bean seed contains a highly toxic compound called ricin. Although castor oil is made from the same seeds, it should not contain ricin.
But might, especially in India.
Ricinus communis, which is called the castor oil plant. So not only is it poison, but it's also communist. It contained the toxin ricin. Seeds are being swallowed whole with the hard outer shell intact, typically prevent absorption of the significant toxin. But that's not how I had it.
Yours was crushed in an oil form.
Oh, man.
That's fascinating. Interesting. It's curious why it would be so detoxifying for the liver then.
Cover myself in rice and everything.
So the oil, it has that part of it removed, but I still haven't figured out why. I mean, everybody loves castor oil. I can't have a conversation with anybody in holistic wellness that does not mention the value of castor oil packs. And I'm like, I do it, but I don't get it. I don't know. Clearly I'm missing something because I mean, it's not like I've spent a huge amount of time researching it, but I have looked into it.
Yeah, interesting.
I thought that the property was that when you covered yourself in castor oil, the heat would be trapped in the oil because it's so viscous. And then all of this heat comes to the surface of your body, and then you wash it off. I thought that was the general principle of it. But that just sounds like voodoo now that I say it out loud.
I mean, it sounds good.
Yeah.
If it was very viscous and very thick, it would be more insulating for the heat on the body. And so maybe the heat deeper into the body, the interstitial fluid, as they say in Chinese medicine, would rise to the top, trying to get out.
I don't know. They say
Sounds good to me.
Coconut oil on the crown of the head is supposed to do that. It's supposed to be very, very cooling.
Lose a lot of heat out of the top of your head.
Yeah, and it's very cooling. In the summer, people put the coconut oil.
If you've ever shaved your head, you'd know that. It's super cold out.
Also, the skin, like you said, is an organ, and so it's going to be absorbing the oil as well. What would be the benefits of that?
Maybe we could say castor oil is too thick to absorb.
Maybe.
Because it is much thicker than any other oil.
Mm.
Yeah. Because the sesame, your skin absorbs it right away.
Yeah.
It gets absorbed really easy.
This is actually a really fun experiment to do at home, is to take olive oil, avocado oil, and whatever else you have in the kitchen and just do a dot of each and see how long it takes them to absorb.
Ooh, that does sound fun.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, we have all kinds of different oils.
I was going to watch Dune tonight, but we could do that.
What kinds of oils do you use in your skincare products?
Metafoam is my favorite. I put it in everything, and it is not traditionally Ayurveda. So I use that one. I use olive oil. So I also like hemp seed oil. And I think just the properties because olive oil is more occlusive. It tends to sit on the skin more. So I think it's a much better choice for Vata. And again, this is adapting because once again, these are not traditional Ayurvedic oils, any of these. The hemp seed is much more, it's a very drying oil. So definitely more for the Kapha type. Mm-hmm. And then and these are all the ones that are in the face lotions. What I play around with more in terms of like truly Ayurvedic ingredients or traditionally Ayurvedic ingredients for those is the herbs. So including things like amla, so Indian gooseberry, mangista, Indian mudan seed, gaduchi is the other name for that one.
Yeah.
And then one that is kind of hard to find, but alodra, because it is so good for especially women's skin, but I think it's also beneficial for guys as well.
Yeah. What are the beneficial properties of it?
So that one is a really good balancing herb. And if within Ayurveda, when we're talking about the properties of the oils, so we have moisturizing and heating, moisturizing and cooling, drying and heating, and drying and cooling.
Okay.
I do want to back up just a titch because we had you creating your own skincare company, but now all of a sudden you have this whole basket of knowledge in Ayurveda, and we haven't established for our audience how it is that you acquired that.
Oh, this is when I broke up with Western medicine, didn't you?
Okay, no, I didn't hear that part. No, I heard.
Oh, it came much later.
Skincare and. I didn't hear about you getting a divorce.
And no, so then you were practicing some yoga, I think, already by this time because you started into the yoga world when in your 20s. So I'm assuming you're kind of like at least in that world, moving along, yeah?
Yeah. To get to it, let's get to the answer fast because otherwise we'll be
here all day.
We'll be here all day.
I got nowhere to be. Middle afternoon. I'm gonna sit back.
Let's see. I also have the autoimmune condition Hashimoto's.
Yeah,
And
I know. That was another thing.
The two of you both have Hashimoto's too?
Yeah.
And the acne?
And the acne, and also the repetitive UTIs. I was like, oh my gosh, this is my girl.
Okay, so listen, in 2016, I started having symptoms of the Hashimoto's. It took 2 years to get a diagnosis. Finally got a diagnosis in 2018. And then in 2020, I got serious about, hey, I want to do the thing that Western medicine claims is impossible, which is cure my autoimmune condition.
Yeah.
So when I decided to do that, I found this book that was written by an Ayurvedic practitioner on Hashimoto's, actually doing the thing I just said, curing Hashimoto's with Ayurveda. And that's how I fell down the path of Ayurveda.
What was the book called? Do you remember?
Dr. Marianne Teitelbaum's book, Heal Your Thyroid with Ayurveda. I read this book, devoured it. I reached out to her, set up a time to consult with her.
Yeah.
And she essentially, I was on hormonal birth control at the time. And she said, you've got to quit the hormonal birth control. And this is one of those things where I'd had practitioners at some point over the past 20 years tell me, I'd really like to see you come off this for whatever. But what she actually did, what she took the time to do, is give me the why, because I am terrible at following instruction. Unless you tell me why I'm doing it. You tell me why I'm doing something, I'm like, oh, I am on board with that. And so that's what she introduced. That is it. Yes, that is the book.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, good book. Good book.
For any of the listeners also struggling with Hashimoto's, it seems like it's an epidemic these days.
Yeah, it definitely seems like an epidemic these days. So she told me to do this, and it still took another 8 months or so for me to finally knock the vending machine over, so to speak.
Yeah.
And when I stopped hormonal birth control, I experienced chronic UTI symptoms. I had those symptoms for 18 months. The first ever time that I experienced UTI symptoms, saw multiple practitioners, got the lecture multiple times about having good bathroom hygiene, rolled my eyes, almost got fired as a patient on more than one occasion, the whole thing. Fell down multiple rabbit holes chasing that with PCR testing and all of this advanced testing. And ultimately, at the end of the day, because I kept asking every single one of these practitioners, because I know what ketones smell like. I work around acetone. So I kept showing up at all these different doctors' offices going, my pee smells like acetone. What is going on? Is this insulin resistance? And they kept testing over and over. No, you don't have insulin resistance. Your H1A1C looks great. Your glucose levels in your blood look great. Your urine is not showing up for any of that. And then 18 months into this whole thing, because I test my urinary hormones daily, this is how I avoid pregnancy. I have an at-home urinary monitor. I had a cycle consistent with PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Oh, sure. Okay.
One of the 4 main causes of PCOS is insulin resistance. And so I saw that and I was like, I told these guys this is what the problem was. And I kid you not, within 1 week, 1 week of making dietary modifications and changing how I exercised, I resolved 75% of my problems. Wow. And then the last one, the last symptom that I was experiencing, it was already largely it was moving towards full resolution. It just took a while to get it there completely. But then what happened is I've lost track of time at this point, probably about a year later. So you know that one of the supplements that's all the rage right now, diindolylmethane, methane, it's just shortened to DIM. It's used for estrogen detox and women who are estrogen dominant. At this point, I'd been my estrogen levels had been very, very low for the whole time after I'd stopped hormonal birth control. And once again, I knew that because I was doing at-home urinary monitoring. What happened is after a while, it was almost like I wasn't ovulating. And then my estrogen levels were higher during the luteal phase, which they shouldn't be. Your progesterone should rise during the luteal phase. And the estrogen levels shouldn't be that high as what I was seeing. So I saw this cycle where my estrogen levels were high. And I was like, I'm not 100% sure I ovulated this cycle, but I think I did. And so I supported that with some DIM. Those UTI symptoms came right back. And the reason is because DIM is a goitrogenic compound. And so what this means is it sequesters iodine within the body. Not only does the thyroid need iodine to make thyroid hormones, every single cell in the body needs iodine, which I could go down this whole other thing of back when I was originally diagnosed with Hashimoto's. My general practitioner sent me over to an endocrinologist. That endocrinologist said, you need to completely eliminate all sources of iodine from your diet. So I changed my multivitamin and I stopped eating dairy. Within 1 month, I had actually, I do need iodine regardless of what that endo said, and started taking it again. And it largely resolved that breast cyst before it went in ultrasound. It subsequently completely resolved after that.
You ought to get her phone number, sweetie, and you ought to be able to text her at any time because the two of you could really use her help at times.
That's amazing. That's really incredible.
Yeah. Well, and going back over to this whole UTI thing, one of the things that I didn't realize was that lots of times women with low thyroid actually struggle more with UTI symptoms.
Yeah, interesting. That's fascinating. Because also, mine happened. They coincided actually together, and starting to heal one has definitely eliminated the other. So, yeah, it's really interesting.
This is actually, so I'm running launching a second business just around this because for a long time I was trying to talk both skincare and UTIs, and you can imagine the audience being like, okay, you surely lost me here.
You sold me. You can do everything right here in this room.
But it must affect how you're treating your skin. I mean, the skin absorbs everything. I think sometimes we forget that. And so it's going to change your hormones, and it's going to change the way your body's working internally too, if you're putting not great stuff on your skin, right?
Actually, to bring this kind of full circle, low thyroid is also associated with acne.
Yeah. Interesting. So so now I want to talk about the acne again. What kind of changes do you think are the most beneficial for reducing the acne?
Getting my thyroid meds lined out. I kid you not. So this kind of goes back into, so I saw Dr. Teitelbaum for a while. I think I probably saw her 3 or 4 times. Wow. And it's one of those situations where I feel like I've fallen down this path multiple times with naturopaths, with Ayurvedic practitioners, where all of a sudden I open up my cabinet and there's a cabinet full of supplements and I'm going, but I don't feel any better than I did when I started seeing this person. And so I just wiggle the plug. And then I do my own thing for a while until I'm like, I want to do something about this again. And what happened fairly recently is I started seeing another naturopath, and it's one here in the area. And supposedly she's helped people resolve Hashimoto's. So what happened with her when I started seeing her is she looked at my thyroid labs and she goes, well, your TSH is really low. With a TSH value that low, you should be worried about cardiovascular risks. And so she actually had me titrate off the T4 meds that I was on. And when I did that, first of all, my body felt like it was just super cramped. Like I started with these super muscle tightness and I couldn't stretch through it. And there was nothing I could do that would resolve it. And then the other thing is I started breaking out pretty bad. And then I was like, this clearly isn't working. And not only that, but then my Hashimoto symptoms actually exacerbated, which for me, when I have what that looks like is swelling just on the right side of my neck. And it's not something you can visibly see. I can feel it internally. And then it had progressed to right-sided headaches, which had me completely freaked out because there is something known as Hashimoto's encephalitis, which will kill you. So I was completely freaked out.
Damn.
Yeah, now I'm freaked out. Thank you.
Are you?
You're welcome.
Levels, are they also low, sweetie?
I don't know. That's like a whole other story.
It's a whole other story.
Okay, long story short, I think at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what your TSH levels are, especially if you have Hashimoto's. You want to suppress those actually. And what you're more focused on is just your T3 and your T4, and especially the free T3 and the free T4 being right and trying to get your thyroid antibodies down. Because, I mean, anytime we have long-term inflammation going on in the body, I mean, it elevates the risk of developing other types of autoimmune conditions. And it's just not good for us. It elevates the risk of developing thyroid cancer because we've got long-term attack on this thyroid gland. Contrary to what a rheumatologist told me, which is, oh, you just let the process continue. It's totally fine. Your body will keep on attacking your thyroid until it just scars over. And I'm like,
that doesn't seem right.
I don't like the sound of that.
It's so interesting. I think you're bringing up such a fascinating point about our medical condition and system and how there's so many different conflicting opinions and ideas, and it's really difficult to navigate the actual medical system to take care of yourself in a way that is even, you know, holistic or healthy, whether it's in line with Ayurveda or just healthy principles for living.
It's hella difficult. I mean, there is so much misinformation and doctors just spewing it like it's absolute truth. And it's not. Like, it's exhausting and all of the things. And just like my current practitioner, so I am finally seeing an integrative thyroid doctor. But that's just like him. He tested my estrogen levels on day 4 of my cycle and then come back. And of course, progesterone's really low, right? And my estrogen's still not that high, like pretty dang low. And he goes, well, you're estrogen dominant. And I was like, okay, go ahead and prescribe me the progesterone, but I ain't taking it. Like, dude, you don't know. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't even start with me on what my reproductive hormones are supposed to be, because I know way more than you do.
Yeah.
That's like just a whole, it is exhausting. And to find somebody that actually knows what they're talking about and to navigate all of it. And that's just even with the iodine. How much are you supposed to take every day? You've got some people telling you 0.15 milligrams and some people telling you 150 milligrams. And it's okay. I don't think either one of those is right.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy. So it's navigating all of that. And I mean, I don't know. It's been really difficult for me, and I spend way more time than anybody should have to spend looking into this stuff.
And I mean, the thing is you really understand it as well, because you come from a background of research and science. And so when you're reading studies, you're understanding what the studies are saying, and you're seeing the bigger picture as well, which is a massive advantage compared to someone not from a science background who like starts to read a scientific study and their eyes glaze over. You want to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Right? Or they're just like, this doesn't make any sense to me, so why bother? So it's, I mean, on the one hand, it's frustrating, but on the other hand, at least you're in a position where you can discover for yourself the resources and have the knowledge and the insight to be able to understand that testing on day 4 isn't going to give you the results you need to analyze hormones. Most people wouldn't even know that.
Yeah.
So it's good, but it is tiring and exhausting to have to navigate that all on your own.
It is. And I mean, ultimately, that's why I launched a second business, because what I know now, I can't stop talking about. Like, I'll meet somebody on the street and be like, hey, do you have a UTI? Have you ever felt this? I'll see somebody in Walgreens picking up the methenamine, and I'll be like, you do not want that. Put that back on the shelf right now.
So you have your first business that went fully into the Ayurvedic skincare and looking at like the doshas and how best to treat your skin by your dosha. Is that how somebody would pick out products? Or
actually, no. So the way that I incorporated Ayurveda into it is because at the end of the day, like, I was putting way too much thought, way too much brain power on worrying about what I was putting on my skin and worrying about how I was like, I wonder if this brand, if their combo is really for my skin or if I need for oily skin. So it was a constant like mind screw.
Yeah.
Mind screw. That's the word.
It is.
And-
It's dry skin, oily skin. What do they call it? Combo skin.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I just want something that's not going to make me break out and I'm not going to look oily by 3:00.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, I have to still this down and let's treat it just like a diet. So in Ayurveda, there's one diet that will work for everybody. Tridosha is going to work for all dosha types. So why can't we do the same for skincare? We just treat skin like a topical diet and make one set of products that works for everybody. And then just like in Ayurveda, where you have your condiments and you can add to it based on your dosha type, then we have our condiment products. So at the end of the day, Rain Organica is the essentials, which is the tridosha skincare
No matter
products.
what
And
your dosha is, no matter what your skin type is, that's going to be good for you.
Yeah. So the essentials is a cleanser, a toner, and a day and night moisturizer. And some people are like, I don't like the toning step. I'm like, don't do the toning step. You only need the cleanser and the moisturizer. Leave the toner out. And then the mix-ins or the condiments, one is a lotion. Sorry, one is an oil. So this is an all-natural oil. It has evening primrose oil, pumpkin, metafoam. There's 2 more, and coenzyme Q10 in it, which is a oil-based antioxidant. Once again, you're like, okay, these aren't Ayurvedic oils. How this skincare really uses Ayurveda is more in the principles of balance.
Yeah. That's the principle of Ayurveda, not that it's from India, but that all things in nature have a constitution that's warming or cooling or stabilizing. I mean, it doesn't have to have an Indian name to be that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is the oil. And this is during the Vata seasons. I recommend people take 1 or 2 drops and add it to their moisturizer right in the palm of your hand. And then you have a winter rich face moisturizer. You also have an eye cream for any time of the year because, that skin often needs a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then there is a night lotion that is more focused on. So I'm also very supportive of if there's any kind of another thing is I see skin as having 6 main needs. And of those, protecting the skin is here. And then all other 5 of those needs are like here. So way below.
If it's protection number 1, what are the other 5?
Exfoliate, cleanse, moisturize, soothe, nourish.
I do feel like about my marriage the same way. Like number 1 is protect, and then down here, exfoliate and soothe. That's a low priority in the marriage.
And nourish.
Nourish, low priority.
No.
Top is protect.
Protect. That's a very masculine.
I got one job. One job. Man. Mm.
So the night cream is that about protecting or nourishing or soothing or
That one's actually more about exfoliating.
Oh.
So the day and night, the day and night lotion is all about protect. It's got vitamin C and resveratrol and like all the things all the antioxidants. And then this night lotion has niacinamide and L-carnitine, which encourage cellular turnover down in the living layers of skin. Because my whole thing with exfoliation is you don't want to force exfoliation. You want to encourage exfoliation. And the skin has built-in mechanisms for exfoliating. And so a lot of times what happens when we try to force exfoliation, either we're using abrasive products or we're using something that disrupts the normal pH of the skin. We're using very acidic products to try to exfoliate. And what that does is it disrupts the normal enzymes that are in the skin that are there to help exfoliate. Mm-hmm. Because those enzymes function best at a specific pH. And when we're applying stuff that's very acidic, they can't do their job very well. And so instead, if we just encourage and support the skin down in those living layers to actually do their thing and divide and replicate and all of those kinds of things. They're going to naturally push the outer layers off and just support natural exfoliation processes.
Okay, so for all the moms listening who have teenage kids with a lot of acne coming because of the hormones and all the things, what would you recommend as a strategy to help relieve these poor teenage children of their burden in life?
He's got to clean himself. Just keep himself clean, goddammit. Wash your face.
Get your thyroid tested.
Wow, really?
Really? My 13-year-old tests his thyroid. He is a clone of you.
I know. That's the scary
everything
thing.
that you are, he is.
I know.
Mm.
Yeah, get your
And your
thyroid
mom.
tested.
Your mom, you, and your son, they all
Well,
three the same.
what's interesting is a lot of times I hear like dietary recommendations too, and a lot of them follow similar recommendations for like thyroid, right? Like the things that can disturb your thyroid, like dairy or gluten or wheat, creating.
That's all he eats.
Yeah,
is
the
cheese
gut
and-
impermeability.
cheese and wheat. That's all he eats.
I know.
So I'm not dairy free.
Yeah.
I am
You don't have
gluten
to
free,
be gluten free. Yeah.
but not dairy free. I've done elimination tests before, and I can't tell that eliminating dairy makes me feel any way other than hungry. I mean, I've done it for like 3 months. I'm like, okay, well I don't know. I'm going back to eating dairy.
Give me my cheese.
But yeah, exactly.
My mother, who is also hypothyroid, she says, I would rather die than live without cheese.
Yeah, she said that recently, in fact.
She says it all the time.
I would rather kill myself.
My dog says that. His favorite food group is dairy. I mean, you pull the sour cream out and he just appears. I don't know.
Yeah.
Your dog likes sour cream.
That's so funny.
Cream cheese, sour cream, colostrum, like colostrum powder. That dog will kill you over colostrum powder.
Oh my
I
God.
had a colostrum bag at one point.
Oh, stop it.
I'll try the sour cream on the dog.
Yeah, maybe the dogs like sour cream. They probably like cottage cheese.
Never mind. But that cottage cheese is for me and ain't for the dog. That's mine. That's my lunch. That's my lunch. Me and Richard Nixon, we have the same lunch. We have a little bowl of cottage cheese.
Oh my gosh.
That's very cute.
I've always modeled myself after Dick Nixon.
I don't think that's true. So we have the skincare, and then the second business that you've started is what is it? It's tell me about it.
It is better than fine.
Oh, better than fine. Oh, I'm fine.
No, she's better than fine.
Oh shit. Damn. All right.
Yeah. So this is for the people out there who are tired of being gaslit,
Yeah.
like tired of the medical gaslighting. I help move them from gaslit to resilient.
Ah,
Okay.
nice.
Okay. But then we want to be better than resilient, don't we?
Oh man, resilient is where it's at. I mean, having lived at the ragged edge of barely holding on to health and being like, oh my gosh, I feel a
That's
migraine coming.
That's what my wife is, barely holding on. That is her in a nutshell, a castor nutshell.
Castor nutshell, castor oil. We're back there. Is it like learning to advocate for yourself? Is it coaching? Is it what would someone come for if they're like, I'm really struggling with the medical system and I don't know how to advocate for myself and I don't know what's going on? How would you help them?
So there's a couple different ways. I definitely offer one-on-one coaching. And with that, it's bring your medical records from the past however many years. And I'll go through those with a fine-tooth comb and actually tell you what I'm seeing. And this is bringing in functional medicine ranges. This is bringing in not even functional medicine. Like I don't even quite know which category. I guess integrative medicine might be the closest to it.
Yeah.
It's also bringing in principles of TCM and Ayurveda and just filtering it through that. And then my focus, because we talk about root cause a lot. Root cause is used way too much. And the problem with root cause is you wind up taking DHEA. And DHEA, that ain't the root of the problem. The root of the problem is a soil problem. It's what are the essential nutrients, the essential vitamins, the essential minerals that a body needs in order to make all the hormones that it's supposed to make, and in order to make the energy that it's supposed to make. And when the soil is deficient, when what we're putting into our bodies is deficient, the body cannot do that. And so the body struggles. And so a lot of times when we're talking about the root, we don't need to be talking about the root. We need to be talking about soil. And so it's really my approach is to focus on 3 key hormones. Thyroid hormones fall under one umbrella. There are like 5 of those, but anyways, they fall under one umbrella. And then also insulin and cortisol are the other 2.
Very important ones to keep track of as well. And I love that you bring this up because this is something that, I don't know, maybe people don't know until you're struggling with an autoimmune condition. But the levels that like my general practitioner doctor, what she considers to be fine is very different than what a functional medicine doctor would consider to be okay. And so there are different kind of readings to these tests. And it wasn't my general practitioner doctor that found the antibodies because they don't even test for antibodies.
Apparently, they don't even know they exist.
It's not something that there's like a medication for, really. So they don't test for it as far as really I can tell because they can't fix the problem, right? They're like, oh, you have an autoimmune condition. Sorry.
Yeah, that's a death sentence, as I understand. That's it.
Until it gets bad. It's like what your doctor said, like just let it carry on until basically your thyroid is no longer producing anything at all anymore and is completely non-functioning. It's what?
Then we'll medicate it.
Can't we catch this before it's totally destroyed?
We can also cut it out.
Rehabilitate it a little bit. Like you say, tend to the soil and create the conditions for the body to
thrive.
Yeah, to thrive rather than destroy itself. I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, my philosophy on this is constantly changing as I'm navigating it myself. Where I am right now with Hashimoto's is the full belief that the best course of action is to give the body enough T3 and T4 hormones so it does not have to make its own. And then the other piece to that is T3 and T4 aren't the only hormones that the thyroid makes. There are 3 others that the thyroid makes. And so really the people out there with Hashimoto's, we actually need to be on natural desiccated thyroid and get there somehow. And I mean, maybe that's in addition to also taking T3 and T4, but we need to be replacing all of the hormones that it's making. And then what we are doing is by doing that, we are reducing the amount of TSH that the pituitary gland produces because it's not needed. Like we don't need our body to make those thyroid hormones. We need suppression of that TSH as well. Like that is what we're going for. And then that lowers the immune attack on the thyroid gland. And by doing that, then we're able to suppress those antibody levels, which would be our ultimate goal, to keep those as low as possible.
Yeah. That all sounds amazing.
Can I ask one question?
That sounds like the right plan, I'm just going to say.
If I could ask you one question, maybe we can cut this out if it's a stupid question. It's all right. But most of the time I feel like the problems that we have are ones of civilization and domestication. And I imagine there would have been things that we would have done 3,000 years ago, say in the plains of the Midwest, where our lifestyle would have been such that maybe these issues don't come up as much. And maybe it's because we're eating food that is
made
seasonal.
In a factory.
It's seasonal. There's no factories. There's seasonal food. It's local food. We're eating honey that's local. We're moving around a lot more. I don't know if this is a stupid question or not, but are those kind of lifestyle changes impactful to autoimmune disorders? And could we, is a nostalgic callback to an anarchist state preferable?
Oh, yeah. Like tying in what you said, though, about the factory aspect of it, a lot of what is going on, iodine has been displaced from the body by a lot of other halogens. We've got fluoride, we've got fluoride. Yes, chloride's going to come from salt anyway, right? Sodium chloride. But fluoride is not part of our body. It should not be within our body. And we have fluoridated water. Bromide is another one, which this is something that was new to me. Like I fought this. I'm like, you guys are smoking crack and wearing aluminum foil hats. And then lo and behold, actually, there are a lot of sources of bromide that we're exposed to. And that is another very active iodine, like it replaces iodine in cellular receptors. And so when we're talking about, especially when we're talking about thyroid function, because the thyroid is one of the organs that concentrates iodine, it's concentrating these compounds that are foreign to the body, these elements that are foreign to the body, the fluoride and the bromide. And then, of course, what is the body's response to that? It doesn't recognize them. Of course, it's going to attack.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they sit themselves in the glands of the body.
Yeah. So there are different organs within the body that concentrate iodine, and the thyroid hormone is one of them because iodine is in the thyroid hormones. Like T3 and T4 contain iodine, and so the thyroid needs that to actually make the hormones that are needed. And the thyroid isn't the only organ of the body. Also, the ovaries, the breast, for men, the prostate. These are other organs where iodine is absolutely essential to health, even the cardiovascular system. The thing with the cardiovascular system is you could argue for that it's less about the blood vessels needing the iodine, and it's more about healthy thyroid function supports healthy cardiovascular function. That one's a little bit of a chicken and egg question, but for the rest of these organs, or glands, it's not.
And so you're saying like when you have these other, I guess, chemical compounds coming in and disrupting sort of the homeostasis of the thyroid distribution, then the body is like freaks out and says, I don't understand what's going on. And it's trying to recreate homeostasis, but it's doing that by attacking itself or attacking the areas that are creating the iodine, like the thyroid, or holding the iodine because it's not sure how to get rid of the other toxins or the other chemical compounds in the body.
Yeah, because now instead of a bunch of iodine sitting here, all of a sudden we've got fluoride and bromide sitting here. Right. And the body's going, but wait, those don't belong there. Mm-hmm. And so it sends in and begins the attack.
Yeah. That's also why, like soy, I read soy, I was eating so much tofu.
It is goitrogenic. So it will, anything that's goitrogenic, it actually binds iodine and removes it from the body. So that's the problem with DIM as well. So for that, we could say things like broccoli, bok choy. The one that has the highest concentration, like a problematic concentration of DIM, is Brussels sprouts.
Oh yeah, it's like the those carnivorous kind of
carnivorous.
Yeah. Cruciferous.
Cruciferous. That's it. The cruciferous ones.
I like gochujang with my soy.
Yeah. Well, this has been so fascinating.
We're gonna have to have you back on the show.
I know. We could talk about this forever.
There's a lot that I think we just dipped our toe in.
We were gonna get more into Ayurveda, but I think that we covered like some pretty essential things as far as like health and balancing hormones. And also Ayurvedic principles, creating homeostasis, and also how to, I love that your products are also tridoshic and that you can add in a little bit here and there to, increase, especially for seasons. Like right now, it's very dry here. My skin is just like itching all the time everywhere. So I could use some extra Vata rescue remedies at this point. And also, I love that you're helping women or men too, but these tend to be more problems for women, advocate for themselves in a very complex,
intimidating
health system. And it's so needed. It's so needed. Yeah.
It's appreciated.
Yeah, it's a really important job. And it's been so fascinating. I feel like I've learned so much from you.
You got to get her phone number, sweetie. Because you're going to need to text her.
It's true. I have her info.
I'm not going to share it, though, to the listeners at home.
Tell us where they can find you in case they also want your info to look you up and text you.
It might be two companies. You can reach me through either one of them. Rain Organica. I'm on Instagram at Rain Organica Skincare. If you reach out to me there, I'll get you to the right channel.
Yeah. And that's you. You're answering your messages and that's your profile.
Yeah.
So they can find all the information
Rain
there.
Organica Skincare on Instagram.
And also, if they're interested in ordering some of your products, you have a really special little code for free shipping. Finding Harmony.
Yes.
They can
Find
order.
Harmony is the code.
Yeah.
Don't broadcast that. Everyone's going to use it.
that's what. Yeah, they can order and use the special code to get free shipping on all their products. So I would highly recommend it. I'm thinking of getting that night cream for Jediah. I think it'd be helpful for the deeper exfoliation.
It's his thyroid, sweetie. That's what she said. She said it twice. Jake get his thyroid checked out.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Good.
Be sure he's getting enough iodine every day.
Iodine,
Yeah, I think that's the problem. He doesn't have a very well-balanced diet.
Well,
it's hard to get a teenager to have a well-balanced diet.
It's not chewable, is it?
Oh, that's the thing. You can just take a capsule. My dogs love them. They're great. I don't know about these dogs. They're into dairy and kelp capsules.
This dog here, this dog would love some iodine. Wouldn't you love some iodine? You got your little thyroid here.
A kelp capsule. That'd be good.
Well,
What about spirulina? Does it have iodine or no?
No, that
just chlorophyll or chlorella.
I love the seaweed. I eat that seaweed with my rice.
He does eat quite a bit of seaweed.
Seaweed and gochujang is delicious. Korean food must be great for the...
This is the thing that apparently... So the RDA is 0.15 mgs per day. And Japan, they eat 14 milligrams a day. So
it's too much.
No, actually, it's not too much. Their incidence of breast cancer is a lot lower. And yeah, I think they have pretty good thyroid health compared to us.
I know that we're supposed to get off the phone, but it's a whole other conversation. But the incidence, like I saw a chart once where, it's dairy consumption and then you have breast cancer incidence. But if dairy consumption is here, then breast cancer comes down here. So all throughout the Pacific coast of Asia, like the breast cancer rates are significantly lower.
But cause doesn't equal correlation. And I think if we look at the other... I think if we were to, because our diets are also dramatically different from what they are there. And with Japan being I'm picking on Japan, with them being an island nation, especially, their soil is probably more replete with iodine than lots of places here in America and Canada that are more inland. Yeah, because it's from the sea. So back when land masses changed, the coastal regions have more iodine in the soil. There's something across the center of America called the goiter belt, where the levels are really low.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
All right.
So more seaweed for everyone.
More seaweed for everybody. The kids love seaweed these days. You see them eating it like a candy. You are a very pleasant to talk with, and thank you so much for your patience with us. And you've been very, very generous with your time. Thank you.
Thank you both so much for having me. This was so much fun.
It was really lovely. Thank you. Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of the Finding Harmony podcast. I want to remind you of an incredible class that's open to you by donation. When you make a donation to Yoga Gives Back through my personal fundraising page, you will be invited to join my spiritual wellness workshop happening on June 16th. The recording will also be available. By participating, you're not only investing in your own spiritual growth, but you're also supporting an incredible charity, an incredible non-for-profit that I love and I truly believe in, Yoga Gives Back. It is dedicated to empowering women and supporting children in India through higher education and through microloans. Your donation isn't just a gesture, it is actually a lifeline for those in need. So mark your calendars, June 16th. Join me, find the link in my show notes, and come into a meaningful journey of yoga. Make your practice, your investment in yourself, fuel positive change around the world. Together, we can truly cultivate wellness, not only for ourselves, but for our whole world, especially for the women and the children, the young girls in India who need our support, who are being empowered by this money through education and microloans. Your donation is making a huge difference. I've seen it for myself and been so inspired to support and continue my support of this incredible non-for-profit organization. So reserve your spot now. Be a part of something bigger. And I just want to thank you for your generosity in advance. Come join Yoga Gives Back and join me in June supporting women, young girls, higher education, and women building businesses in India, which is incredible. I hope to see you there.
That's it. We've concluded another episode of the Finding Harmony podcast. I just want to thank you so much for doing the work that changes the world, starting with yourself. It truly does make a huge difference. Please make sure you have your automatic downloads turned on wherever you listen so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. I have so much more magic I can't wait to share with you. Lastly, if you're on Instagram, I love connecting and hearing from you. So come on over and say hello at Finding Harmony Podcast. And you can also come say hello to me personally at Harmony Slater Official. Thank you again for being here. I cannot wait to share more with you in our next episode.